The ancient church bells of Sandringham rang through the crisp January morning as 3 generations of royalty prepared for what seemed like a simple Sunday service. But, beneath the surface of this traditional royal routine lay untold stories of family bonds, public duty, and personal struggles that would unfold throughout this single, seemingly ordinary day. What the cameras captured was elegance and grace despite the bitter cold, but what they couldn't see were the private moments, whispered conversations, and silent understanding that truly defined this remarkable family gathering at one of Britain's most cherished royal traditions. The morning mist clung to the grounds of Sandringham House like a delicate veil, obscuring the ancient oak trees that had witnessed centuries of royal history. Inside the Norfolk estate, the familiar sounds of a royal household preparing for Sunday service echoed through the corridors. Catherine, the Princess of Wales, stood before her dressing room mirror, carefully selecting her outfit for the day. The weather forecast had warned of bitter cold temperatures, and she knew that every detail of her appearance would be scrutinized by both the media and the public. Her personal stylist had laid out several options, but Catherine's eye immediately fell upon a deep navy coat that would provide both warmth and elegance. The wool fabric was thick enough to ward off the January chill, yet tailored perfectly to maintain the sophisticated silhouette that had become her signature style. She paired it with a matching fascinator adorned with subtle feathers, a choice that honored both tradition and contemporary fashion sensibilities. Meanwhile, in another wing of the historic house, Prince William was engaged in his own morning ritual. Unlike his wife's careful consideration of fashion choices, his preparation was more straightforward but no less important. He selected a classic dark overcoat that had served him well through many winter public appearances, understanding that his role was to present a steady, dependable image alongside Catherine's more fashion-forward approach. The couple had arrived at Sandringham the evening before, joining King Charles III, who had been staying at the estate for several weeks as part of his winter retreat. This annual tradition held special significance for the royal family, representing not just a religious observance but a public demonstration of family unity and continuity. The Sunday service at St. Mary Magdalene Church had become one of the most anticipated royal engagements of the winter season, drawing crowds of well-wishers despite the harsh weather conditions. Catherine's preparation extended beyond mere clothing selection. She spent considerable time reviewing the morning schedule with her private secretary, discussing the logistics of the short walk from Sandringham House to the church, the timing of photographs, and the anticipated interactions with local residents who would gather to catch a glimpse of the royal family. Every aspect of the morning had been carefully choreographed, yet she knew that the most memorable moments often arose from unexpected encounters with members of the public. The princess had always understood the importance of connecting with people on a personal level, even during formal occasions like church services. She made mental notes about the children who might be present, knowing that a warm smile or brief conversation could create lasting memories for young royal watchers. Her approach to public engagements had evolved significantly since her early days as a royal, developing from nervous uncertainty to confident grace under pressure. William, having completed his own preparations, joined his wife in their private sitting room where they shared a quiet breakfast. The morning newspapers had been delivered, and both knew that their appearance at church would likely dominate the social pages in the coming days. However, their focus remained on the genuine purpose of their visit, the importance of maintaining royal traditions, and supporting King Charles in his first winter season as monarch. The conversation between the couple touched on various topics, from the challenging weather conditions they would face to the significance of continuing Queen Elizabeth II's legacy of regular church attendance. They discussed the logistics of the morning, including the timing of their departure and the route they would take through the estate grounds. Both understood that their appearance needed to strike the right balance between accessibility and dignity, warmth and formality. As they prepared to leave their private quarters, Catherine made final adjustments to her outfit, ensuring that her coat was properly fastened and her accessories were secure against the expected wind. She had learned from experience that outdoor royal engagements required practical considerations alongside aesthetic ones. Her choice of footwear, for instance, needed to provide stability on potentially icy pathways while maintaining an elegant appearance for the photographers who would document every step. The morning light filtering through the windows of Sandringham House created an almost ethereal atmosphere as the royal couple made their way through the historic corridors. Portraits of previous monarchs gazed down from the walls, silent witnesses to generations of royal tradition and change. The weight of history seemed particularly significant on mornings like this, when the continuation of centuries-old customs provided both comfort and responsibility. Staff members moved efficiently through the house, completing final preparations for the royal family's departure. Security personnel had already conducted their morning briefings and established their positions along the route to the church. Local police had coordinated with royal protection officers to ensure that public access would be managed safely while still allowing for the spontaneous interactions that made these occasions special for local residents. The meteorological reports had been accurate. The January morning proved to be one of the coldest of the winter season. Frost covered every surface visible through the estate's windows, creating a crystalline landscape that sparkled in the weak winter sunlight. The beauty of the scene was undeniable, but it also presented practical challenges for outdoor appearances and public engagement. Catherine's experience with cold weather royal engagements had taught her valuable lessons about maintaining warmth while appearing comfortable and approachable. She had developed techniques for keeping her hands warm between handshakes and had learned to position herself strategically to minimize exposure to harsh winds while still engaging effectively with crowds. These skills, acquired through years of public service, would prove essential during the morning's activities. The couple's children were not accompanying them on this particular Sunday, having remained in London for various commitments and activities. However, both William and Catherine knew that family time would be an important part of their Sandringham visit, and they looked forward to reuniting with the children later in the week for additional winter activities on the estate. King Charles had risen early, as was his custom, and had spent time in quiet contemplation before beginning his own preparations for the service. The transition to monarchy had brought new responsibilities and perspectives to these traditional occasions, and he approached each public appearance with careful consideration of his role as both sovereign and family patriarch. His relationship with William and Catherine had strengthened considerably in recent years, and their joint appearances provided valuable opportunities to demonstrate the stability and continuity of the monarchy. The king's own preparation involved consultation with his private secretary regarding the morning schedule and any last-minute adjustments that might be necessary due to weather conditions or security concerns. His long experience with public engagements had taught him the importance of flexibility while maintaining the essential elements that made these occasions meaningful for both participants and observers. As the appointed departure time approached, the royal family members converged in the main hallway of Sandringham House. The atmosphere was one of quiet anticipation mixed with professional efficiency. Everyone understood their roles and responsibilities, yet there remained an element of genuine excitement about the morning ahead. These family occasions, despite their public nature, often provided opportunities for personal connection and shared experience that strengthened relationships within the royal household. The final moments before departure were marked by last-minute coordination between family members, staff, and security personnel. Catherine made one last check of her appearance, ensuring that her coat was properly arranged and her accessories were secure. William confirmed the timing with their protection officers, while King Charles reviewed the morning's weather forecast one final time to ensure that any necessary adjustments could be made to their planned activities. The doors of Sandringham House opened to reveal the crisp January morning that awaited them. The cold air immediately made its presence known, but the royal family was well prepared for the conditions they would face. The short journey to St. Mary Magdalene Church would test their ability to maintain both warmth and dignity while engaging with the public in challenging weather conditions. As they stepped outside, the cameras that had been positioned to capture their departure began recording what would become one of the most widely viewed royal appearances of the early winter season. However, for Catherine, William, and King Charles, the morning represented something far more significant than a photo opportunity. It was a continuation of traditions that connected them to generations of royal service, a demonstration of family unity, and an opportunity to connect with the people who had gathered to share in this special occasion. The walk toward the church would reveal the full extent of their preparation and their ability to maintain royal dignity while navigating the challenges of bitter cold weather and intense public attention. The gravel path crunched beneath their feet as the royal party began their procession toward St. Mary Magdalene Church. The sound echoed across the frost-covered grounds, creating a rhythmic accompaniment to their measured steps. Catherine instinctively pulled her navy coat closer around her body, feeling the sharp bite of the January wind against her exposed skin. Despite the cold, she maintained her characteristic poise, her spine straight and her expression warm and engaging for the small crowd that had already begun to gather along their route. William walked slightly ahead and to the right of his wife, a positioning that had become second nature through years of joint public appearances. His dark overcoat provided a stark contrast against the white frost that covered the estate's landscaping, and his breath formed small clouds in the frigid air with each exhalation. The prince had developed an ability to appear completely comfortable in any weather conditions, a skill that served him well during outdoor royal engagements throughout the year. King Charles followed at a measured distance, his own steps confident despite the challenging walking conditions created by the overnight frost. The monarch's experience with winter weather at Sandringham spanned decades, dating back to childhood visits with Queen Elizabeth II and Prince Philip. This continuity of experience provided him with an intimate knowledge of the estate's pathways and the best routes to take during various seasonal conditions. The first group of well-wishers had positioned themselves strategically along the path, having arrived hours before the royal family's expected departure time. Among them were several families with young children, bundled in heavy winter coats and scarves, their faces bright with excitement despite the early morning cold. Catherine immediately noticed the children and began mentally preparing for the interactions she knew would follow, understanding that these brief encounters often became treasured memories for the families involved. Local residents had traveled from surrounding villages to witness this traditional royal appearance, many of them carrying small cameras or mobile phones to document the occasion. The gathering represented a cross-section of Norfolk society, from elderly couples who remembered previous generations of royal visits to young families experiencing their first royal encounter. Their collective presence created an atmosphere of respectful anticipation that added significance to what might otherwise have been a simple walk to church. Security personnel maintained discreet positions throughout the route, their professional awareness creating an invisible protective barrier around the royal party while allowing for natural public interaction. The balance between accessibility and safety had been carefully calibrated based on years of experience with similar occasions, and the security arrangements reflected both current threat assessments and the royal family's desire to maintain meaningful connections with the public. As they progressed along the path, Catherine's attention was drawn to an elderly woman who had positioned herself near a particularly exposed section of the route. Despite the bitter cold, the woman wore a cheerful expression and held a small bouquet of winter flowers that must have been carefully preserved for this special occasion. The princess made a mental note to speak with the woman during their return journey, recognizing the effort and dedication that such preparation represented. The church bells continued their melodious call to worship, their sound carrying clearly across the frozen landscape and adding a sense of ceremony to the morning's proceedings. The bells of St. Mary Magdalene had rung for countless royal visits over the generations, and their familiar tones provided a connection to the continuity of tradition that defined much of royal life. For many in the gathered crowd, the sound of the bells combined with the sight of the royal family created a powerful sense of historical continuity and national identity. William's awareness of his surroundings extended beyond the immediate crowd to include the broader security situation and the logistical requirements of their planned schedule. His military training had instilled habits of situational awareness that proved valuable during public engagements, allowing him to remain alert to potential issues while maintaining his focus on public interaction. The prince had also developed an intuitive understanding of crowd dynamics that helped him navigate complex public situations with confidence and grace. The pathway curved gently through a grove of ancient trees that had sheltered royal processions for centuries. The bare branches created intricate patterns against the gray January sky, their stark beauty enhanced by the delicate coating of frost that covered every twig and leaf. This natural cathedral provided a moment of tranquil beauty that contrasted with the formal pageantry of the occasion, reminding observers of the deep connection between the royal family and the English countryside. Catherine's interaction style had evolved significantly since her early days as a royal family member, developing from careful formality to genuine warmth and accessibility. Her approach to public engagement reflected both her natural personality and the skill she had acquired through extensive experience with diverse audiences. The princess had learned to read crowd dynamics quickly and adjust her responses accordingly, ensuring that each interaction felt personal and meaningful despite the constraints of time and protocol. The photographic documentation of their progress toward the church continued throughout their walk, with both professional photographers and amateur enthusiasts capturing images from various angles and distances. Catherine and William had long since become accustomed to constant documentation of their public appearances, and they had developed techniques for maintaining natural expressions and body language despite the persistent attention of cameras. King Charles's pace remained steady and unhurried, reflecting both his physical fitness and his understanding of the ceremonial importance of their procession. The monarch's long experience with public life had taught him the value of measured, deliberate movement during formal occasions, and his example provided guidance for the other family members regarding appropriate timing and deportment. Local dignitaries who had been invited to observe the royal family's arrival began to take their positions near the church entrance, their formal attire providing colorful contrast against the winter landscape. These officials represented various aspects of Norfolk society and governance, from local government representatives to community organization leaders who had contributed significantly to regional life and culture. The temperature continued to drop as clouds gathered overhead, threatening additional weather challenges for the remainder of the morning's activities. Catherine's choice of substantial winter clothing proved prescient, as the wind began to increase in intensity, creating additional challenges for maintaining both warmth and elegant appearance. Her fascinator remained securely in place thanks to careful preparation and professional styling, but she could feel the cold beginning to affect her exposed hands and face. A small group of international visitors had joined the local crowd, having planned their Norfolk holiday specifically to coincide with potential royal sightings. Their presence added an element of global interest to what was fundamentally a local community event, reflecting the worldwide fascination with British royal traditions and the continuing appeal of monarchy as both historical institution and modern celebrity phenomenon. The approach to St. Mary Magdalene Church revealed the full extent of public interest in the morning's activities, as additional crowds had gathered near the church building itself. The ancient stone structure provided a magnificent backdrop for the royal arrival, its medieval architecture creating a powerful visual statement about the continuity of faith and tradition that characterized much of British national identity. William's attention shifted to the tactical aspects of their final approach to the church, as the increased crowd density near the building required more careful navigation and heightened awareness of security considerations. His protective instincts regarding Catherine's safety were always present during public engagements, though they had learned to manage these concerns in ways that didn't interfere with their public duties or spontaneous interactions with well-wishers. The church grounds had been carefully prepared for the royal visit, with groundskeepers having worked to ensure safe walking surfaces despite the challenging weather conditions. Sand and salt had been applied strategically to prevent slipping on icy patches, while maintaining the natural beauty of the historic churchyard. The preparation reflected both practical safety concerns and the aesthetic importance of presenting the venue in its most favorable light for photographic documentation. Catherine's breathing created visible clouds in the cold air as they neared their destination, but her expression remained warm and engaged as she prepared for the increased level of public interaction that would accompany their arrival at the church. She had learned to use the physical challenges of cold weather engagements as opportunities to demonstrate resilience and dedication, qualities that resonated strongly with public perceptions of royal duty and service. The final 100 yards of their journey would prove to be the most challenging in terms of crowd management and weather conditions, as the gathering near the church entrance had grown significantly since their departure from Sandringham House. The royal family's ability to maintain dignity and warmth while navigating these challenges would define the success of their public appearance and set the tone for the remainder of their Sunday morning activities. The heavy wooden doors of St. Mary Magdalene Church opened to welcome the royal family into the warmth and sanctuary of the ancient stone building. The sudden transition from the bitter January cold to the heated interior created a moment of physical relief that was immediately apparent on their faces, though all three maintained their composed public demeanor as they made their way toward their designated seats. The church's interior, illuminated by both natural light filtering through stained glass windows and carefully positioned electric lighting, provided a stunning backdrop of centuries-old craftsmanship and religious devotion. Catherine felt the immediate comfort of the warmer air against her cold-numbed face and hands, though she was careful not to show any obvious signs of relief that might be captured by the cameras that continued to document their movements even within the sacred space. Her navy coat, which had served her so well during their outdoor procession, was carefully arranged as she settled into the wooden pew that had been polished to a gleaming finish in preparation for their visit. The princess had developed a deep appreciation for these moments of relative privacy within public settings, where the formal demands of royal protocol gave way to the more personal experience of worship and reflection. The church building itself told the story of centuries of royal worship, with memorials and plaques marking the presence of previous generations of monarchs and their families. Queen Victoria had worshipped in these same pews during her visits to Sandringham, and the walls seemed to hold the echoes of countless royal prayers and private moments of faith. For King Charles, this continuity held particular significance as he navigated his first winter season as monarch, finding comfort in the traditions that connected him to his predecessors while establishing his own relationship with this sacred space. William's attention divided between the formal aspects of the religious service and his ongoing awareness of the security and logistical considerations that continued even within the church walls. His military training had instilled habits of situational awareness that never fully relaxed, even during moments of worship, though he had learned to maintain these protective instincts without allowing them to interfere with his spiritual engagement or family responsibilities. The prince found particular meaning in the familiar hymns and prayers that had formed part of his religious education since childhood. The local congregation, many of whom were regular worshippers at St. Mary Magdalene throughout the year, had dressed in their finest clothing for this special occasion. Their presence added authenticity to the service, ensuring that it remained a genuine act of community worship rather than merely a royal photo opportunity. The mixture of local residents and invited guests created an atmosphere that balanced respect for royal tradition with the inclusive nature of Anglican worship. Reverend Canon Jonathan Riviere, who served as rector of the Sandringham parish, had carefully prepared a service that would resonate with both the royal family and the broader congregation. His sermon touched on themes of service, duty, and faith that held particular relevance for the monarchy while remaining accessible and meaningful for all present. The rector's long experience with royal services had taught him how to create moments of genuine spiritual reflection within the formal constraints of ceremonial occasion. Catherine's personal faith had become an increasingly important aspect of her royal role, providing both private comfort and public example during challenging periods of royal life. Her engagement with the service was clearly genuine, marked by attentive listening during the readings and enthusiastic participation in the hymn singing. The princess had discovered that these regular opportunities for worship provided necessary moments of reflection and renewal amid the constant demands of public life and family responsibilities. The church's acoustics enhanced the beauty of the traditional hymns, with the congregation's voices creating a powerful sound that seemed to fill every corner of the ancient building. The music selection had been chosen to reflect both seasonal appropriateness and royal preferences, including several hymns that held special significance for the royal family and had been featured prominently in previous ceremonial occasions. The organ, expertly played by the church's musician, provided a majestic accompaniment that enhanced the ceremonial dignity of the service. King Charles's participation in the service reflected both his formal role as Supreme Governor of the Church of England and his personal commitment to Anglican worship. The monarch's responses during the liturgy were delivered with the clear diction and appropriate gravity that characterized his approach to ceremonial duties, while his demeanor suggested genuine engagement with the spiritual content of the service. His presence provided a powerful symbol of the continuing relationship between the monarchy and the established church. During the quieter moments of prayer and reflection, each family member found opportunity for private contemplation amid the public setting. Catherine's thoughts turned to her children, who were spending the morning in London, and she offered silent prayers for their well-being and happiness. Her role as mother remained central to her identity despite the increasing demands of her royal responsibilities, and these moments of spiritual connection provided important opportunities to maintain perspective on her various roles and obligations. William's prayers often focused on his growing responsibilities as heir to the throne and his desire to serve his country effectively while maintaining strong family relationships. The prince had found that regular worship provided essential grounding for the complex challenges of modern royal life, offering both spiritual guidance and emotional stability during periods of intense public scrutiny and demanding schedules. His participation in family worship traditions also represented important modeling for his own children as they developed their own relationships with faith and duty. The traditional elements of Anglican worship, from the familiar cadences of the Book of Common Prayer to the seasonal readings from Scripture, provided comfort and continuity that contrasted with the constantly changing demands of contemporary royal life. These weekly occasions for worship represented islands of stability in schedules that were otherwise filled with travel, public engagements, and the unpredictable challenges of modern monarchy. Local community members who had been selected to participate in various aspects of the service took their roles seriously, understanding that their contributions would become part of the historical record of royal worship at Sandringham. The readings were delivered with careful preparation and appropriate dignity, while the collection was conducted with the same attention to detail that characterized every aspect of the morning's proceedings. The sermon provided an opportunity for thoughtful reflection on the relationship between faith and public service, themes that resonated particularly strongly with the royal family's understanding of their roles and responsibilities. Reverend Riviere's words addressed both the privileges and challenges of leadership while emphasizing the importance of humility and service to others. His message was crafted to speak to universal human experiences while acknowledging the unique circumstances of his distinguished congregation. Catherine's attention to the theological content of the service reflected her serious engagement with the intellectual aspects of faith as well as its emotional and spiritual dimensions. The princess had spent considerable time during her years as a royal family member developing a deeper understanding of Anglican theology and its practical applications to contemporary life. Her questions and discussions with religious leaders had enhanced her ability to represent the church effectively during her public duties. The intercessory prayers included specific mention of national concerns and international challenges, reflecting the Church's traditional role in addressing broader social and political issues through spiritual engagement. The royal family's participation in these communal prayers demonstrated their connection to the concerns and struggles of ordinary citizens while maintaining their roles as symbols of national unity and continuity. As the service progressed toward its conclusion, all three family members prepared mentally for their return journey through the cold weather and the renewed public attention that would accompany their departure from the church. However, the spiritual renewal and family connection they had experienced during worship would provide strength and perspective for the challenges that lay ahead in their ongoing royal duties. The final hymn brought the entire congregation together in a powerful expression of shared faith and community, with the royal family's voices joining those of local residents in a moment of unity that transcended social distinctions and formal protocol. This musical celebration provided a fitting conclusion to a service that had successfully balanced ceremonial significance with genuine spiritual content. The closing prayers and benediction offered final moments of quiet reflection before the return to the public scrutiny and ceremonial demands that awaited outside the church doors. Each family member used these precious seconds of relative privacy to prepare for the renewed public engagement that would mark their journey back to Sandringham House and the continuation of their weekend activities. The church doors opened once again to reveal a transformed scene outside St. Mary Magdalene, where the January weather had intensified during the hour-long service. Light snow had begun to fall steadily, creating a picturesque winter wonderland that added magical beauty to the ancient churchyard while presenting new challenges for the royal family's return journey. The crowd that had waited patiently throughout the service had grown even larger, with additional well-wishers having arrived despite the deteriorating weather conditions, demonstrating the enduring appeal of these traditional royal occasions. Catherine stepped carefully onto the stone steps leading down from the church entrance, immediately feeling the sharp contrast between the warm sanctuary they were leaving and the biting cold that awaited outside. The snowflakes that had begun during the service now fell more persistently, creating a delicate dusting on her navy coat and requiring her to adjust her pace to maintain stability on the increasingly slippery pathways. Her experience with challenging weather during royal engagements proved invaluable as she navigated these conditions while maintaining her characteristic grace and accessibility to the public. The return journey provided additional opportunities for public interaction, as many in the crowd had positioned themselves strategically along the route back to Sandringham House, hoping for moments of connection they might have missed during the initial approach to the church. Catherine immediately noticed a group of children who had clearly been waiting throughout the service, their faces red with cold but bright with excitement as they clutched handmade cards and small gifts they hoped to present to the royal family. William's protective awareness heightened as he observed the changed conditions, particularly noting the way the falling snow had begun to accumulate on walking surfaces that might become treacherous for both the royal family and the gathered public. His concern extended beyond immediate safety to encompass the well-being of elderly spectators and young children who had endured the harsh conditions throughout the morning. The prince's natural leadership qualities emerged as he quietly coordinated with security personnel to ensure that the return journey maintained appropriate pace and safety standards. King Charles paused to acknowledge a group of local dignitaries who had waited near the church gate, taking time to express his appreciation for their presence despite the challenging weather and to inquire about local community issues and developments. The monarch's conversation style reflected decades of experience with such interactions, combining formal courtesy with genuine interest in regional concerns. His ability to make these brief encounters feel significant and personal had been refined through countless similar occasions throughout his long public career. A particularly memorable interaction occurred when Catherine noticed an elderly woman who had clearly been struggling with the cold but had refused to leave her position along the route. The princess approached the woman with special attention, taking time to ensure she was adequately warm and offering words of encouragement about her dedication. The conversation revealed that the woman had attended every royal church service at Sandringham for more than 30 years, creating a touching moment of recognition for her faithful attendance and community spirit. The photographic documentation of their return journey captured images that would become iconic representations of royal dedication and public service in challenging conditions. The falling snow added dramatic visual interest to the photographs while the royal family's continued engagement with well-wishers despite the weather demonstrated their commitment to maintaining connections with the public regardless of personal comfort. These images would later be widely shared as examples of royal resilience and accessibility. Local residents who had traveled significant distances to witness the royal visit were not disappointed by the additional interaction opportunities provided during the return journey. A family from a neighboring county had brought their disabled daughter specifically to see Catherine, and the princess's warm response to their efforts created a moment of profound emotional significance that would become a treasured family memory. The genuine care and attention Catherine showed to individuals with special needs had become a hallmark of her public engagement style. The snow continued to fall with increasing intensity as they progressed along the path back towards Sandringham House, creating both scenic beauty and practical challenges that required constant attention to safety and timing. William's experience with outdoor activities and adverse weather conditions served him well as he helped navigate the changing conditions while maintaining the ceremonial dignity expected during royal appearances. International media representatives who had positioned themselves to capture the royal family's departure from church found themselves dealing with the same challenging weather conditions as their subjects, creating a sense of shared experience that added authenticity to the coverage of the event. The images and reports that would emerge from the morning's activities would emphasize not only the fashion choices and public interactions but also the dedication required to maintain royal traditions regardless of external circumstances. Catherine's interaction with a young girl who had waited throughout the service holding a carefully preserved flower created one of the most touching moments of the entire morning. The child's mother explained that her daughter had been practicing her curtsy for weeks in preparation for this potential encounter, and Catherine's patient encouragement as the little girl performed her greeting demonstrated the princess's special gift for making children feel valued and confident during royal encounters. The approach to Sandringham House revealed additional crowds of people who had gathered to witness the royal family's return, having followed their progress via social media and local news coverage throughout the morning. This secondary gathering demonstrated the ripple effects of royal public appearances, as news of their activities spread quickly through both traditional and digital communication channels, drawing additional public interest and participation. King Charles's final public interactions before reaching the privacy of Sandringham House focused on thanking local officials and community leaders who had contributed to the morning's success. His appreciation for the efforts of police, security personnel, church officials, and volunteer coordinators reflected his understanding of the collaborative nature of royal events and the importance of acknowledging those whose work made such occasions possible. The last 100 yards of their journey were marked by increased snowfall that created dramatic visual conditions for photographers while testing the royal family's ability to maintain dignity and warmth in increasingly challenging circumstances. Catherine's choice of appropriate winter clothing proved prescient as she continued to engage naturally with well-wishers despite the deteriorating weather, demonstrating the practical wisdom that informed her approach to royal dressing. As they reached the entrance to Sandringham House, all three family members took final moments to acknowledge the dedication of those who had remained throughout their entire journey, offering waves and expressions of gratitude that encompassed everyone who had participated in the morning's events. Their appreciation for the public's willingness to endure harsh weather conditions for the opportunity to share in this traditional occasion was evident in their final gestures and interactions. The transition from public engagement back to private family time represented both a physical relief from the challenging weather and an emotional shift from ceremonial duty to personal relaxation. However, the experiences and connections they had made during the morning would continue to influence their understanding of their roles and responsibilities long after the immediate demands of the occasion had concluded. Inside Sandringham House, the royal family gathered to warm themselves and reflect on the morning's experiences, sharing observations about particularly memorable interactions and discussing the impact of weather conditions on their public engagement activities. These private moments of debriefing allowed them to process the emotional and practical aspects of their public duties while planning for future similar occasions. The lasting impact of their Sunday morning church attendance extended far beyond the immediate participants, as news coverage and social media sharing spread images and stories from the event to audiences around the world. The combination of traditional royal ceremony, challenging weather conditions, and genuine public engagement created a narrative that resonated with diverse audiences and reinforced perceptions of the royal family's dedication and accessibility. Local community members who had participated in the morning's events would carry their memories and experiences forward, sharing stories with friends and family that would contribute to the broader cultural significance of royal traditions in contemporary British society. The personal connections they had made with Catherine, William, and King Charles would become part of their own family histories and community narratives. The morning's activities demonstrated once again the complex balance required in modern royal life between maintaining centuries-old traditions and adapting to contemporary expectations for accessibility and authentic public engagement. The success of the occasion reflected not only careful preparation and professional skill but also the genuine commitment of all participants to making the experience meaningful and memorable despite challenging external circumstances.